I'm going to demonstrate our experiment in physics using a prism, drawing its ID curve and calculating its refractive index. The objective of the experiment is to find out the refractive index of the given glass prism by ID curve method. The apparatus required for the conducting the experiments are prism, white paper, drawing board, protector, thumb pins, and pins. Theory. Refractive index is the ability of the material of the substance to bend the light towards or away from the normal when light passes through it. From Snell's law, mu equals to sin I by sin r. Minimum deviation is the term used in optics to describe the angle of the deviation that is the smallest when a ray of light passes through a prism. This angle of incidence, where the angle of deviation in a prism is minimum, is called minimum deviation position of the prism. It is denoted by delta. Mathematically, the case of minimum deviation occurs when I equals to E. The refractive index mu equals to sin A plus delta m by 2 by sin A by 2. At first, we draw a center line on a white paper sheet parallel to the paper's longer side. Draw 5 outlines of the prism with its one face coinciding with the central line. Mark the midpoints of the prism outlines on the central line. Draw lines making angles 30 degree, 35 degree, 40 degree, 45 degree, and 50 degree with the central line on the other side of the prism outlines passing through the midpoints. Produce these lines to 10 to 20 cm outside. Replace the prism on the middle prism outline. Fix two pins certain distance apart on the line. Look the pins through the opposite face of the prism and fix two more pins few centimeter apart that all the pins appear to be in the same straight line. Produce the incident ray forward and the emergent ray backward and measure the corresponding angle of incidence I each case. Repeat the process by placing the prism successively on the other outlines. Plot a graph of I and D and find the angle of minimum deviation delta m from the graph. Observation. Value of one smallest division of the protector is 1 degree. Standard value of the refractive index equals to 1.5. For the angle of incidence 30 degree, we have angle of deviation 50 degree. Similarly, for angle of incidence 35 degree, we have angle of deviation 48 degree. For angle of incidence 40 degree, we have angle of deviation 45 degree. For angle of incidence 45 degree, we have angle of deviation 46 degree. For angle of incidence 50 degree, we have angle of deviation 48 degree. So, the angle of minimum deviation from the table is 47.4 degree. Calculation. Angle of prism A equals to 60 degree. We have angle of minimum deviation from table delta m 47.4 degree. The refractive index of the prism from table is 1.6. Similarly, from graph, angle of minimum deviation from ID curve delta m equals to 45 degree. Mean refractive index from the table and graph, we get 1.59. Error analysis. Relative percent error in mu, we get 0.06%. The refractive index of a glass prism, the angle of the prism, and the minimum deviation of the prism was determined.